The journey of American Flight 123. It was a calm, sunny afternoon when American Flight 123 prepared for takeoff from New York's JFK Airport, bound for Los Angeles. The Boeing 737 aircraft was filled with a mix of passengers, ranging from business professionals eager to attend meetings to families excited for vacations. The crew had completed their routine checks, and Captain Richard Davies, a seasoned pilot with over 20 years of experience, was confident in the journey ahead. As the plane ascended into the sky, the passengers relaxed, enjoying in-flight entertainment and snacks. However, about 2 hours into the flight, things took an unexpected turn. A sudden turbulence jolted the plane, causing the cabin lights to flicker momentarily. The passengers exchanged nervous glances, but the flight attendants calmly reassured them that it was just a rough patch of air. In the cockpit, Captain Davies and his co-pilot, Sarah Mitchell, were closely monitoring the situation. The turbulence had passed, but then the aircraft's control panel began showing unusual readings. One of the engines was losing power. "Engine 1 is failing," Sarah said, her voice steady but concerned. Captain Davies immediately contacted air traffic control, reporting the issue and requesting an emergency landing at the nearest airport. The closest option was in Denver, but it was still over an hour away. The crew swiftly prepared for any emergency procedures, and the passengers were informed of the situation. As the plane continued to fly on one engine, tension in the cabin grew. Parents held their children close, and some passengers whispered prayers. The flight attendants remained calm and professional, ensuring everyone was secure and following safety protocols. With expert maneuvering, Captain Davies and his team kept the aircraft stable, and finally, the runway at Denver came into view. Emergency services were already on standby. With a collective breath held by everyone on board, American Flight 123 touched down safely. The passengers erupted into applause, grateful for the skill of the pilots and the crew. Though shaken, everyone disembarked the plane safely. Later, it was discovered that a rare mechanical failure had caused the engine problem, but thanks to the quick actions of the crew, a potential disaster was averted. American Flight 123 became a story of resilience and professionalism, a testament to the importance of remaining calm in the face of adversity. It was a warm spring afternoon in New York City as passengers gathered at Gate 34 for American Flight 123. The plane, a Boeing 737, was preparing for its journey from John F. Kennedy International Airport JFK to Los Angeles. The passengers boarded the aircraft, greeted by the cheerful smiles of flight attendants, as the cabin filled with the hum of conversations, luggage being stowed, and seatbelts clicking into place. In the cockpit, Captain Richard Davies and First Officer Sarah Mitchell ran through their pre-flight checklists. Captain Davies, a veteran pilot with over 2 decades of flying experience, had navigated through all kinds of weather and technical challenges. First Officer Mitchell was a talented co-pilot in her 30s, with a reputation for being calm under pressure. Both were confident in the smoothness of today's journey. As the last passenger boarded and the aircraft doors were secured, Flight 123 began taxiing toward the runway. From the windows, passengers could see the sprawling city skyline fading into the horizon, and many were already looking forward to the 5-hour journey west, where the bright sun of Los Angeles awaited them. Takeoff and the calm before the storm. The engines roared to life as the plane sped down the runway, lifting gracefully into the blue sky. Climbing steadily to cruising altitude, the seatbelt sign was soon turned off, and passengers settled in for the long journey. Among the travelers was Michelle Carter, a business executive heading to a high-stakes meeting in LA, and David and Laura Simmons, a young couple taking their children to Disneyland for the first time. For many, it was just another routine flight, a few hours of movies and snacks before they landed on the other side of the country. Everything seemed normal at first. Flight attendants began moving down the aisles, offering beverages and snacks. Some passengers dozed off, while others read books, watched movies, or stared out of the windows at the vast expanse of clouds below. Captain Davies made a brief announcement over the intercom, welcoming everyone and informing them that the weather en route was clear, with only minor turbulence expected. The first sign of trouble. About 2 hours into the flight, as the plane crossed over the Midwest, the first signs of trouble appeared. Without warning, the aircraft was jolted by a powerful bout of turbulence. Drinks spilled, trays rattled, and the overhead compartments shook slightly. The cabin lights flickered, and gasps could be heard from several passengers. The fasten seatbelt sign lit up, and the flight attendants, while maintaining their composure, hurried to secure any loose items. Captain Davies glanced at the instrument panel. It wasn't unusual to hit turbulence, but this felt different. He exchanged a quick look with First Officer Mitchell, who was scanning the controls for any abnormalities. At first, everything seemed stable, but just as things began to calm down, a warning light on the dashboard blinked to life, a critical one. Engine 1 was losing power. Engine 1 is showing a decrease in thrust, Mitchell said, her voice measured but firm. Davies leaned forward, double-checking the readings. It wasn't just a small glitch, the left engine was indeed losing power. This was no longer a normal flight. Okay, let's go through the procedures, he said calmly. Together, they followed the emergency protocols for engine failure. The aircraft could technically fly with one engine, but losing power in the middle of a transcontinental flight was no small matter. The closest viable airport for an emergency landing was Denver International, but it was over 400 miles away. The emergency decision. Captain Davies contacted air traffic control. American 123, we have a problem. We're losing power in engine 1. Requesting an emergency diversion to Denver, he said, keeping his voice calm for the benefit of the rest of the crew and passengers. The response was swift. Air traffic control immediately cleared a path for the emergency landing, and emergency services were alerted at Denver International. Meanwhile, Captain Davies instructed the cabin crew to prepare the passengers. In the cabin, the mood shifted from mild unease to serious concern. Flight attendants informed the passengers about the engine failure in a composed manner, emphasizing that the pilots were fully in control and that they were diverting the flight as a precaution. Still, the atmosphere grew tense. The Simmons family clutched their children, while Michelle Carter put down her laptop, her face now serious as she processed the announcement. One passenger, a nervous flyer named Tom Sanders, was visibly agitated. Flight attendant Julia Turner, with years of experience, noticed him and made her way over to offer some reassurance. "Don't worry, sir. The plane is designed to fly safely on one engine. The pilots are experienced and will be landing soon," she said, maintaining eye contact and speaking softly. The long descent. As the plane began its descent toward Denver, Captain Davies and First Officer Mitchell carefully managed the reduced thrust from the one functioning engine. The aircraft was losing altitude slowly, maintaining as much stability as possible, but flying with one engine meant they had less room for error. In the cabin, passengers were bracing themselves. Some prayed quietly, others tried to distract themselves with movies or conversations, but there was an undeniable tension. Flight attendants moved methodically, ensuring that everyone followed safety procedures, stowing away loose items and checking seatbelts. Captain Davies kept his hands steady on the controls. He knew that every decision in the next 30 minutes was crucial. The weather over Denver was clear, but a slight crosswind meant that the approach would need to be handled with precision. "Prepare for landing," Davies announced over the intercom as the runway came into view. The landing. On the ground, emergency vehicles lined the runway, lights flashing, as they awaited the arrival of Flight 123. Inside the plane, the tension was palpable. Passengers held their breaths, waiting for the moment when the plane would make contact with the ground. Captain Davies expertly guided the plane lower and lower, aligning it perfectly with the runway. At just the right moment, the wheels touched down with a gentle bump and the plane sped along the tarmac. For a moment, there was complete silence. Then, as the aircraft slowed to a stop, the cabin erupted in applause. The passengers, filled with relief, began cheering, clapping, and embracing one another. The flight crew smiled, visibly relieved but remaining professional as they guided the passengers through the disembarking process. Emergency crews approached the plane, ready to check for any immediate issues, but it was clear that the worst was over. Aftermath. Once everyone was safely off the plane, Captain Davies and First Officer Mitchell were praised for their skill and composure under pressure. News outlets quickly picked up the story, with headlines reading, "Heroic pilots save Flight 123 and miracle landing after mid-air engine failure." Later, an investigation revealed that a rare mechanical failure in the engine's fuel system had caused the power loss. The airline immediately grounded several planes of the same model for inspection, but thanks to the quick thinking of the crew, Flight 123 had a safe outcome. The passengers of American Flight 123 would forever remember that day, not only for the fear they felt in the air, but for the calm and professionalism that kept them alive. Many sent letters of thanks to the airline and to Captain Davies and his team, grateful for their heroism in the face of potential disaster.